Inner Expeditions podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Inner Expeditions podcast for episode 3 with me, Aaron Harvey. Just want to welcome you all back. If you're listening for the second or third time, this will be the third time. And if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome along. It's really nice to have you here for this conversation. Now, what if I was to tell you that there are benefits from going and seeing a good chiropractor other than chronic or acute back pain? That well-being emotionally, as well as certain other things which we'll dive into further in the conversation, can be achieved via seeing a good chiropractor and just general well-being. On that note, I want to welcome Dr. Clay Farley to the episode. We're at our house today, or my house, and I'm really grateful that he's been able to join me. He's also, as well as being my chiropractor. He practices in town via the Exmouth Wellness Centre, which he started and owns with his partner Mary, who's an acupuncturist. And they've got a really good balance of Western Eastern medicine and a great holistic approach to spinal care, as well as all over general health and well-being. So I just want to welcome you for coming on to the show, Clay. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Aaron. Really appreciate being invited along.
Yeah, it's great. We always have great conversations whenever I come in. You've done so much great work with me, not only with my back. I've had injuries in the past, which has led to a few other injuries I've had along the way, but also just my state of mind and well-being and everything that I've achieved since I first walked through your doors has been incredible. So I really want to thank you for the help that you've given me and for taking time out to come into the show.
You're welcome, Aaron. So happy to help. And I was really grateful that you came into the practice finally. It took me a while to get you in there. But really happy you came in and we got to work on your body and get you to this really good place, because it's just really fantastic to see you move into the new era of your health and wellness and back into the running, and really happy to see it.
Yeah, well, it's so good. And one of the first things that I noticed coming into the practice was that you practice a technique. I think it's probably the right way to describe it as the ABC technique.
Yeah, that's correct. It's an acronym for Advanced Biostructural Correction. So I spent about 4 years as a chiropractor doing a whole range of different techniques, just trying to explore and find what was most effective in short and long-term outcomes for patients. Was getting a little bit frustrated towards the end of that 4 years in not getting people as good as what I thought we should be able to. And then I was lucky enough to have a friend I went to uni with send me some posture photos of patients he was treating with a new technique he'd learnt, and getting amazing results in posture, and also a lot of really challenging conditions I was struggling with. He seemed to be doing quite well with. So I went and retrained. Took me, regular seminars for a few years, and I've been doing the ABC technique for about 4.5 years now, pretty much exclusively with people unless they request otherwise, purely because of outcomes, like instant outcomes as well as long-term health outcomes that reach a fair bit further, as you're talking about in the intro, than just back and neck pain.
Yeah, and a big part of that is what can be locked up in your central nervous system, with things as far as emotional well-being can be tied up in that as well. And when I first came in, one of the first things you got me to do was read a book called SD Protocol, which I read, and it was fantastic, by a Dr. Wayne Todd, who is a doctor he's a good bachelor in applied science, and I think he even started going down the neurology path as well, for functional sort of well-being. And I think it seems like that kind of aligns with what you practice, in the way that there's so much that can be tied up in the nervous system and how that can affect your general health and well-being.
Yeah, look, Dr. Wayne Todd has just put together a really good way of understanding how the spine affects the whole body, and he's put it together in a book, and it's a really good read. It's got quite a lot of neurology in there, but the average person can understand that and apply that to their own body. So he just explores the effect of the central nervous system on hormone production, regulation of sympathetic and parasympathetic branches of the nervous system, which basically sympathetic is the fight-flight portion of the nervous system. So tend to be that people are getting stuck in that a lot these days with the modern lifestyle and the amount of stresses we have in our life. And we've found, particularly Dr. Todd has explored the fact that excessive tension on the nerves that come out from the upper back, where most of that sympathetic nervous system derives its information from the brain from, when they have excessive tension on them, we get overstimulated in that sympathetic nervous system and become sympathetic dominant is the term that he's used. And then we get stuck in that fight-flight mode. And what comes with that instantly is like anxiety and stress, which seems to be a world phenomenon at the moment. And then also with that comes a change in regulation of our digestive system, because when we're running from a saber-toothed tiger or whatever it was designed for, we're not going to be thinking about digesting food properly. It also down-regulates our immune system, because when we're in a fight-flight mode, we're not thinking about fighting off bugs or colds. So you get this whole change, and then we're designed really well to be in that state for a short stint, so hours or days, and then the threat should theoretically disappear, and we go back to regulating in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest, which runs our whole digestive system, our whole immune system. It's where we should be 95% of the time, but modern society we're not. So what we're finding is tackling it from a few different angles is very effective. If we're working on a spinal level and removing that tension from the spine, we then have a chance to address things on a mindfulness level and talk to people about sort of working on maybe some meditation and bringing their thought processes back to a more healthy place, where they're looking at proactively managing stress, and then we can explore diet and exercise, and that sort of multimodal approach seems to have a very good effect. Where the ABC technique comes in really interestingly is, as I discussed earlier, like the postural results are phenomenal, and nothing I've ever seen affects posture so quickly and so effectively long term as well as this ABC technique. So by bringing that technique, we remove that tension off the nerves from that thoracic region that drive the flight response much quicker and effectively than anything I've ever seen. So Wayne Todd talks about postural exercises and address it in that way, and that's fantastic, and we incorporate those. But we find that by bringing in the ABC technique, we get that change much quicker and much more effectively, and get those improvements, in stress and the way people's lives are kind of running way too fast and stressful.
Yeah, and what I've seemed to notice as well is how, it can just be linked to something as much as just bad posture, from sitting at a keyboard all day or sitting on your iPhone, shoulders rounded forward, hunched over. That physical side of it can seem to just be enough to trigger your system into thinking that you're in a stressed mode, and people can be stuck there.
Yeah, definitely. And we know screens play into that as well. So we know that blue light, which is another thing that Dr. Todd goes into quite thoroughly, and it's getting pretty common knowledge now that blue light is great for us during the day. We've got the sky reflects the light, we get lovely blue light, but we're really designed for that to shut down when the sun goes down. So we've got this problem with everybody's got a screen or three or however many we've got, and we tend to want to look at them after the sun's down. A lot of our lights now have moved from halogen to LED and fluorescent, which is all blue light. So we get this blue light stimulation late in the day as well. So as well as postural stuff with the computers, then we're bringing in that blue light stimulation. We know that the body then takes a while to reset and wind down after that. So we're designed kind of for that to disappear, and then a couple of hours later we go to sleep. So if you're looking at a screen till 9 o'clock at night trying to go to bed at 9:30, or 11 o'clock at night trying to go to bed at 11:30, you're going to find it really hard to wind down. There's some great apps on your phones. Hopefully most people have found them where you can blue light filter, so you can really pull out the blue light. I know the Apples do it where you can set it for a timer where it turns on at 7 o'clock at night and turns back off at 7 in the morning, but it still has an effect. Dr. Todd's actually got some glasses, some red glasses that can filter that out. But we don't usually go there. We usually just try and get people who are really struggling with sleep or anxiety, particularly in the evenings, to try and wind back the screens, dim the lights, take out the LEDs, replace with some old halogens or incandescents, and focus on that side of things as well.
Yeah, like it's almost getting back to that cave-like environment where the further I seem to go down my own personal fitness journey is you go to bed when the sun goes down and you wake up when the sun comes up. It's just that natural rotation for your daily habits. And on top of that, like you were mentioning about posture and freeing up, so many people end up shoulders forward. It's more about getting your shoulders back a bit more. And I've definitely added some of those things to my daily routine. I get up in the morning first thing and I think I do the thoracic bridge is one of them. I do another one's called the banded arm circles, where I have the bands in front of my body like a Mediband, and I put them back over my shoulders, back around my back.
Yeah, great. So shoulder mobility and opening up the chest. There's you can lay on a rolled up towel too. I'm not sure if we gave you that one or not. So you kind of roll up a towel and lay it down along the spine and lay on that. That works really well. You can use a roller. Just try not to roll the roller crossways on your spine and roll up and down. That can, even though it sounds nice at the time and feels like a good stretch, it can destabilise things a bit from a mechanical perspective. So there's a few exercises. We've got a few on our website if anybody's interested. You can have a look on there. We've got some exercise demonstrated to improve with posture and just micro breaks while you're sitting, which can help too. I'm looking at Az's laptop there, and I'm thinking we might have to have an ergonomic assessment at the end of this.
Yeah, definitely.
So anybody who's on a laptop, please get it upright on a bit of a box and get yourself an external keyboard and mouse, because you'll make my job a lot easier if you do end up in my office. We're just not designed to be looking down all the time. But with an external keyboard and mouse, a laptop suddenly becomes a really functional, ergonomic, desktop. You just set it at the right height, eye level. Particularly, I think we've had a bit of trouble with that with a lot of people working from home now. They've gone from having their nice sort of ergonomic setup at work and half of them at home on the kitchen table on a laptop, and it'll work a bit hard to get that improved.
Yeah, and I've even seen where even at work sites and workplaces, they'll definitely encourage that, and they have desktops that you can raise up so you can stand up for periods of the day and then drop it back down.
Great.
That
work. Sit stand desks. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. There's also a whole bunch of stuff, research, which I haven't looked into as much as I'd like, but research based around muscle activation when you're standing it being much better for us, longevity and health-wise, to help with hormone and enzyme production while you're standing. So yeah, that's probably a really good thing for people to have a think about. You can do a cheap option. I think there's one that just sits on top of the desk, which you can lift up rather than the whole desk raising. So getting up and upright as much as possible, really. Yeah, on your feet. Sitting, I think, is probably creating a lot of our issues with society, amongst other things.
Yeah, and even on that topic, I know when I first started having trouble, so when I first walked into Clay's practice, I was having a lot of knee trouble in my left knee, and that caused me, like any injury, is you look down and you study how to avoid that next time and what you can learn from that. So the problems I was having with my left knee end up stemming from my previous back injuries down in the lower spine. And, I thought I needed surgery. I thought I might have had a torn meniscus or something. And I'd spent about 2 years going to doctors. Oh, you've just got runner's knee. Just rest it for a few months and you'll get back into it. And I would do that, and then it would flare back up again. And I've looked down the path of how I run, how my foot engages with the ground. My running technique's been completely overhauled. My footwear, I wear a bit more of a minimalistic flat-soled shoe now, so there's no raise in the heel. It's a flat-soled shoe. Minimum cushioning, a little bit on my trail shoes. But, even coming and seeing you and your approach to that really adds to and helps me with what I've learned already.
Yeah, so Aaron, obviously done most or pretty much all the hard work it took to get the knee better, but the knee hadn't improved. He'd been talking about it to me for a couple of years. I kept mentioning, just come in and we'll have a look. And I think after he tried everything else, he came in, which is often the way with chiropractic, because a lot of people don't really think of it. When they think of a sore knee, they don't think, oh, let's go to the chiropractor. They think, let's go to the physio, or let's go and have a chat to an orthopedic surgeon. But yeah, he came in and we just checked out his back and his hips and did a functional assessment of his whole body, but particularly his lower limb, and found some discrepancies there that were based around hip stability. So he wasn't getting the activation into his hip stabilizing muscles from his lower back. There was some nerve tension in there, and that was affecting his stability at his hip, which was effectively directly affecting knee stability and wearing on ligaments and cartilage. So we addressed that lower back issues, worked on the hip stability, did some local activation work on those muscles as well, and had a great outcome, which is, obviously Aaron had done the work. He changed his running style. He'd sort of done some rehab. He'd really looked at everything else first. So we had a really quite a rapid shift, I'd say, with where we got him. And I was really happy to hear the other day he did his first run over the Exmouth Cape Range.
Yeah,
and made it to the other side, 20 Ks.
Yeah.
I was very happy when I heard that.
And it's funny because as you get to learn your body and you get to know your body, you can pick certain things up. So recently, while I was running a bit more, I started having a bit of pain or a bit of an ache in my left hip. And a friend of mine who's a masseuse, great masseuse, really knows her subject, and she was saying it's probably related to your glute minimus or something like that. So I'd picked it up in my running that while I was so focused on keeping my shoulders back, my back was arching probably a bit too much and my pelvis was tilting back out. And I just remembered to just try and be straighter. And the very next time I went in and saw you instantly picked up on it as well. And it was just incredible how in tune that you are, and you can pick up on the tiniest little things. And it was in a week of me realising that I came in and saw you, as I would go and get my checkups now, that it was just these tiny little things that can just throw you back out when you think you're on top of it.
Yeah, and that was where kind of those maintenance checks come in, particularly for somebody who wants to keep improving their performance and has got some goals on track. You want to make sure you manage those injuries so they don't sneak up and then reoccur to an extent where it takes you a lot of work to get them right again. And I think that was a completely different pattern. We'd sorted out the knee and the sort of lower back L3 muscle weakness, and then you came in with some pelvic issues, probably from you being aware of like trying to alter your running style. But yeah, the good thing about that is we've been seeing Aaron pretty regularly. So when it comes to something coming up that's sort of just turned up, we might be an adjustment or two and it disappears, which is wonderful.
Well, when I first came in, also it was quite the thing that had me thinking a little bit in a sort of daunting way was that the program that you set is like a 6-week program. For me anyway, at the start, it was like coming in twice a week for 6 weeks. And I was like, oh man, that's a lot, am I getting spun here, or can I justify that kind of money? And I'm so glad I did. And I know we discussed it, and I just felt safe knowing that you had my best intentions at heart. It wasn't just a spin to, generate money coming through the door twice a week for 6 weeks. And it was so beneficial because I filled out a survey at the start, and mentally, emotionally, I was really struggling at that stage as well, probably through injury, and I just changed my lifestyle from working away and settling into this lifestyle at home, where when I filled out your survey, I think I marked my emotional well-being at about a 3 or a 4, which was pretty bad. But since doing the training and doing the course with you, I don't think I've ever looked back, and I've never felt as poorly, with anxiety and sadness as when I first walked through your door. I was a bit of a mess, and I just haven't looked back since then. And it's incredible what you've done. I just want to thank you officially for all the great work you've done, and you're going to continue doing for me and everyone around. So
thanks, Aaron. Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to help. It's so great. You just mentioned that earlier today, how you haven't gone back to that place, and that's what I'm in this business for, really, because that is exactly what we're trying to create, is these long-term health solutions for people. I mean, there was so much involved for you at that stage where you couldn't run, which is what you'd focused on doing, and you built yourself up to a stage where you're, achieving great sort of results and self kind of what we call it, self-improvement or self-satisfaction, I suppose, with your running, and then that was taken away from you. And then there was definitely that component of probably spinal aggravation of your stress hormones and the way you're regulating your system. And then that's the great thing, if we can remove that and then get you active and get you back into the things you love, like, it's such a great turnaround for people. It's often the issue people struggle with, I think, is they know they need to do exercise to feel good, and they might go to the gym or take up running, and then generally 6 weeks down the track is what sort of time frame it usually starts to show the cracks in the system, and they might end up with knee pain or shoulder pain or neck pain or lower back pain, and they can't do that anymore, and so they don't have that ability to build their health through exercise. And we know all the research says that exercise, is definitely, out of all the things you can do for your body, it's, apart from eating well, I suppose, it is the most important thing you can do for brain health, body health, longevity. So that's where we come in. There's people likely can't reach that goal they want to reach if they've got a knee problem or a lower back problem or a neck problem or a shoulder problem. And then the way we're working now, it's a relatively quick process to get most people back on track. There's some chronic stuff, but that 6-week process we talked about with Aaron, we've managed to get it down to that. We usually get most people 50 to 70% improvement in what they've come in for, if it's a reasonably recent or not too complex injury or illness. And then from there, it's really where they want to take it. It can go on the other effects when we're talking central nervous system, hormones, stress. That can really, in some cases, build over a longer period till you can get people to where they don't even remember where they were at. And that, I suppose we were talking about with the acupuncture and Chinese medicine, it's great. Now we've got Mary, my wife, she was on maternity leave, so she's back on board now. So we work in conjunction with that if we have emotional stuff or stress that's not shifting, she can bring in the acupuncture and the herbal medicine, and we just see that just deals with it on a whole nother level as well.
Yeah, I find that when you talk about health and well-being, it's a whole 360-degree thing. Yeah, so I found that I got fit, healthy, felt really great in that perspective, but mentally I was probably struggling a little bit, and I really like the way that your approach is it's a 360 thing with movement, health, fitness, but also maintaining a good mindset. How it all seems to go hand in hand with your well-being. It should be treated. I know I speak to some people, and you're struggling with something, and it's like, man, you could really go and get benefits from seeing a good chiropractor. And they think because they don't have a bad back that there's nothing to offer, but they're struggling to get treated or the treatment that they need for feeling better, and they can't work out why they're not feeling great. And they've been and seen doctors, and they're getting tests, and they've struggled finding answers where it could be something that they need to do. If they've never seen a chiropractor before, there might be some answers there as an option for those people as well.
Yeah, look, definitely. I mean, that was me. I spent 20 years trying to work out my own problems through various different modalities. I think I did the physio specialist route as a kid because I had issues from a very, I suppose it was traumatic birth with a forceps delivery where I got stuck, and then we had a pretty decent motor vehicle accident where we were in a small truck and we hit by a truck loaded with sand when I was 3. So as far as I can remember, I had headaches, neck pain. Now I've worked it out. Like, it wasn't just that. It was, knee pain. I just thought this stuff was normal as a kid, believe it or not. I had knee pain, ankle pain, lower back was playing up. And that's the pain side of it. And then it's been interesting over the last few years. I've managed to unravel a bit of my stuff as well. I've realised I had sleep issues as a kid. Like, I'd have insomnia. I had anxiety issues. I had raised to grow my teeth a lot. all this stuff that I suppose you're in it, you think it's normal, and maybe that's where people are at. And then I explored different stuff, like most people, just to try and alleviate the pain and get me to a good state. And then I only found chiropractic in my 20s and had like really reasonable results with that. And the only reason I say they're reasonable now is because I found ABC, and now I understand how good my body can be and where it's getting to. So it's a really interesting journey, and I'd you know, like you said, I'd ask people, you know, give Chiro a go, because if you haven't given it a go, you probably just don't know whether it can help with whatever you've got going on, whether it is just sort of emotional stress and anxiety, or sleep, which is such a big one we see these days, or whether it is, you know, lower back pain, neck pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, hip pain. It's such a holistic way of treating the body, that the effects of balancing the spine and getting the nervous system running better are very far-reaching, and often people are really surprised with the results they get, which I suppose you only came in for knee pain really to start with, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And it's funny how when you, like you just mentioned, you don't realise it until afterwards when you look back and you think, man, like, why did I do that to myself? Like, you don't realise it at the time until you make that move to go and see someone, and then looking back from the other side when you're feeling better, you're like, oh.
And that's the thing, you can't see it when you're in it. You know, you can't imagine what it would feel like not to feel like that. Yeah, I totally agree.
You just get so used to being in that state, and like you said, that sympathetic dominant state where it's all you know. And I think they even touch on it in Dr. Todd's book, that people don't know any different. It's almost a safety net for them because they're so used to it and so comfortable. They almost are too scared to get out of that state because it's all they've known for so long.
Yeah, totally. I think we're going to see a bit of a catalyst about that with COVID. I think we're already seeing it because people have been forced to slow down. So they've been, you know, that constant busy stimulation has been taken away from them. So they've had to sit with themselves for a bit longer and realise that maybe there is some stuff going on and they need to do some work, whether it's, you know, meditation, mindfulness, getting out, exercising more to calm their brain. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see in the next couple of years whether we see a bit of a shift in the global health awareness because people have just checked in with themselves.
Yeah, and if people come out of this, I mean, you would like to think that so many people will come out of this having learned something to, you know, to slow down their lives, to maybe have a bit less screen time, to look into other avenues of their health and well-being when, you know, previously they might have thought it was a bit of sort of hippie, you know, hippie mumbo jumbo or whatever. They don't think about meditation, but the benefits you can get from that and practicing mindfulness and gratitude and just slowing yourself down and being happy in the now and in the moment. I've definitely have that with my family where with the kids, when we're playing and we're doing stuff at home, I'm in the moment with them and the phone's away and I'm not worried about anything else outside of where I am right now. And I can't tell you how beneficial that's been in my own stress levels as well as my relationship with the kids.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's so good.
Aaron, yeah, I'm working towards it.
That's
I'm getting better at it.
And it is a practice,
Yeah,
right? Like it's a practice. It's not something that you achieve and then you just stay there. I mean, there's nothing tries your patience like having kids, which I'm sure everyone...
The phone's a good one. When you run your own business, it's just one you have to put away. Hey, it's just, yeah. But I think on that, like meditation is probably the next thing alongside exercise that has currently the most research out there. There's not really any mumbo jumbo to it anymore, with the scientific community are backing it wholeheartedly, saying that you know, it's probably one of the next keys to good long-term health and longevity. I think, like you said, the population doesn't get it as a whole yet, but I imagine in the next decade it's going to be, you know, one of those things. If you're not doing it, you're just taking years off your life. And
I feel like now, like, I mean, I'm 40 and like I'm getting into it. I'm learning about it so much more, where there just seems to be this rising of awareness and this conscious awareness. It's just improving all the time. And when you've got CEOs of major corporations and they're talking that they get up in the morning, the first thing they do is meditate, and write in their journal what they're grateful for and putting these things out there. I mean, whether they believe in it or not, they know that it's a valuable tool to use.
Yeah, I suppose they're
help.
looking at the research, aren't they?
Exactly. And now with anything, if you can back it with science, you can't argue. With some of the stuff, you might get some gurus that they'll tell you this and that, but until they can back it with science, you know that it's got to be good. And it's working. It's clearly working, and it's raising more attention these days, definitely.
Yeah, it's a good time to be alive, I reckon, when it comes to our health and wellness, really, because we have so much at our fingertips, and so much good research that I suppose supports what's been talked about for years, but it was hard to really understand whether it was working or not. It's an exciting time. I'm trying to get back into I am getting back into my meditation practice, would be the best way of describing it. So I fall in and out with busyness and life and kids, but I find when I fall out for a while, it starts to affect my relationship with my children and my wife. Like, I'm no longer as present as I would like to be when I'm with them, and kids pick up on that so quick, and then they start to play up because they want that one-on-one time with them, particularly if you don't have that much, free time to be around them. You really need to make the most that time you are there. So it's about fitting in that. It's kind of like investment, really, isn't it? It's like putting some money away in super or something. You got to put that time in each day in order to reap the rewards of actually maximising other time throughout your day with your kids and your family.
And keeping that in touch with them, so as they get older, you don't lose that connection. Like, you can always, as your kids get older, I'm losing touch with my kids. They're drifting apart and I just don't feel like I know them anymore. Well, I think if you can touch bases regularly and be present for them and pay attention to what they're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, all they want is your time, your undivided attention to engage with them and to do what they're doing and to put everything else down and forget about anything that's going on in the background, because you can never fix anything that hasn't happened yet. You've just got to work on what's in front of you. And, we're so close from me that I used to work away for 12 days at a time and then come home for 9 days at a time. I guess I'm lucky enough to realise that I gave that away at a stage where I'm hoping the kids will never remember that, but I'm now getting that back, and it's so vital for me to now be home and to put that time into maintaining a relationship when they're older and they're struggling with things as adults and grown-ups. The first people they're hopefully going to call is me or my wife, because we're still friends, we still know them as people, and hopefully we can be there when they want us.
Yeah, it's one of those challenges. I'm just experiencing that now where I'm away a couple of nights of the week, and it's only 2 nights of the week out of 7. It's definitely brought some challenges into our life where I've got to up my game, I suppose, when I am at home.
Well, I mean, that's just going to roll us straight into the next topic, which is great, because I wanted to talk to you about what you do and why you go away. Please share with us what you
so
do
we're now doing runs inland to a couple of the mining towns. We're going to Paraburdoo and Panawanika weekly to go and basically service there with chiropractic at the moment, but we'll bring other services in as we go. And I'd kind of always had not the goal, but the idea of going out there at some stage, knowing that we live in a town of 2,500 people, and there's only so many, people who are going to utilise our service and get improvement, and then they don't need so much care anymore. And I wanted to put on another chiropractor up here to help me out, and actually be largely for a selfish reason. I needed to get my own body on track. I was spending on 15 grand a year or something, flying to Perth every 2 to 3 weeks to get myself adjusted and workshop ABC down there, which wasn't going very well with my wife. So we started these runs to Paraburdoo and Panawanika, and we're driving for about 6 months. We've now got our own aircraft, which is fantastic. So we're hiring a pilot, and we fly out there each week. We fly to Paraburdoo on a Tuesday, and we work there for the afternoon. We work in Exmouth in the morning, fly to Paraburdoo, work there the afternoon, stay the night, work the next morning at Paraburdoo, and then fly into Panawanika, which is kind of a round trip. We work there for the evening, and then we come back early on Thursday morning and get back into it in town. So it's definitely a bit of a change in the schedule.
I think it's great. Just before the show, you showed me photos of the plane. I think it's just so badass that you just jump on the plane and go and service these, these inland towns that probably don't have the opportunity to see someone regularly.
Well, they've got nothing. Yeah, so that's the reason we went to those towns to start with. Plus, they had an airport close by because the plan was always to fly. But yeah, they've got nothing really. They're out there and they're working hard. You've been out the mines before, and they're doing 12-hour days on the site. So often 14 hours away from home. They're residential towns, so they're often got young kids. The majority of them, they're cooking their own meals, looking after their kids. It's a good life for them because they're not FIFO, but it's a hard life. So they're so appreciative of the care we've brought and getting amazing results. And that was part of the reason we wanted to go weekly. Like, you could go out there once a month and you could sort of help a little bit, but you just can't get people on track at that kind of schedule. So
because they can kind of go backwards in that time.
Look, that's 2 shifts in a month, and that's, I don't know how many hours, so 72 hours a shift, and that's a lot of time bouncing around on a truck or on a drill rig or whatever they might be doing. So the normal person, you'd struggle to get them better at that, but the miners, particularly. So that once a week schedule, it's probably not as good. I would like to be going out there twice a week, but it's just not feasible with our schedule. So we tend to get people in if they need it. We'll see them like the Arvo and the next morning, or in Pannawonica it might be when they get there at lunchtime, and then we'll see them late in the evening. And you just get them that a little bit further along where they're going to get through that week without going back to where they were or worse, and then come back the next week and getting some amazing results.
Yeah, I remember when I was coming in to start with, and you were saying how, when your back's locked up and it's so tense, it takes time to release that. Otherwise, you can sort of go back a step or two when you don't come in often enough. But also, everything that's locked up when you first start getting tense and things happening in your spine and it's locking up, there's certain things can get locked up in that process. And then as you start to unwind and things do loosen up, those things can sort of come back out a little bit again, just to sort of hit.
Yeah. So I suppose it's something I'm broached today, is the unwinding process of this technique we do, the ABC technique. So something that I never experienced on bodies before doing this technique. So usually someone would come in with an issue and you'd work on them and try and get things moving in that area. And the issue would improve a bit, and then it would come back again at some stage, whether that was soon or later, and you'd treat it again, and you'd get improvement, but it wouldn't change their pattern. That's what I was finding. I wouldn't get a complete change in pattern where that pattern would disappear completely. And I was finding that in kids as well. They'd still maintain a pattern, which didn't sit well with me, because I'm like, if I'm changing something, the true cause of the problem for the better, then we should be changing patterns, and people shouldn't have that body sort of pattern or system pattern. So with the ABC, you adjust somebody and their body unwinds a bit of tension in that area because you've improved the stability in that area. And we talk more about stability rather than sort of taking away tightness, because by correcting stability in the spine, then the body lets go of that tightness it's created, and that's the unwinding. And then you correct some more stability and lets go a bit more. Obviously, we've got, you might be doing stuff, whether it's working or life, sitting is a good one. You're going to stir things up again and wind things back up. So we have to find a schedule that works for people where we can unwind them faster than they can wind themselves back up. And the more stuff they do at home and the more behaviour changes or improvements they modify, the faster they're going to improve. But we find that usually seeing people twice a week in that process really gets the most economical way of unwinding their spine. So Aaron just alluded to, then other stuff can come to the surface. Well, as you're unwinding somebody and they're steadily improving the stability of their spine, they'll have areas that have been locked down for a lot of years unlock. And when that unlocks, it does create temporary instability and often some regression in where they're at. I think you might have been one of the anomalies who didn't experience too much of that.
I think I remember maybe about 3 or 4 weeks in just being extremely tired.
Yeah.
For like 3 or 4 days. I know sometimes you can get quite emotional or quite grumpy. There's one of the things you sort of mentioned, but I just remember there was a certain period where I knew that day. I was like, man, I'm just super, super tired.
And that would be the usual
Yeah.
time frame, usually 2 to 4 weeks into that regular care. People start to have that unlocking where they experience old emotions is probably the most full-on one. Get fatigued, grumpy or emotional. They generally get a bit sore again, which could be the area they've come in for. It could be something completely different they haven't remembered having for years because their body worked through that. It didn't work through that, but it compensated for that and locked down that pattern. And there's one last one. Yeah, and their posture goes again. So they'll come in and they'll just kind of be back to the posture they walked in with, which, and then we work them through out the other side of that, and then we usually just do a full reassessment there and work out whether that's what they wanted to achieve when they came in for. And a lot of people say, Aaron, for instance, had amazing results in that first 6 weeks, and he was in a really good place. Other people, they'll get partially what they want, but there's more there they want, and we make the plan going forward according to people's goals and outcomes.
Absolutely, because since I went in and that initial consult and that 6-week program, I was having this chronic knee pain that I just couldn't get an answer for years. And through getting over that, I've gone and done all these things and never have I suffered that issue again. I've had a few little issues where I think I got some new work boots and they were heavily cushioned, like a really well-known brand, but really cushioned, super comfortable, very spongy soles. And within a week of wearing them, I had almost the same problem, but it's like it reversed and went to the other side.
I remember that.
You with that issue.
I was trying to work out what it was, and we got it down to the boots because nothing. It just didn't present as the same pattern, so it had to be something else. Because we were on a maintenance schedule, so we don't usually see an unwind in people where they uncover, old stuff. So we have to go back through and trace, what's changed in your life, and that's part of my job. Is it's really like detective chiropractic work. It's like someone comes in and you've been seeing them regularly for a bit and they're on a maintenance schedule, and you're like, wow, that's not right. That doesn't present as something that should be turning up. So what are you doing? Is your work environment changed? Oh, we got new seats. Oh, okay, let's go through that. Or for Aaron it was new boots. Okay, we're going to have a look at them. Generally, I'll pull people's shoes to bits and put them back together again the way we want. We've got little wedges we can stick in, and we've got little ways we can modify them to basically get out the cushioning. And this is an interesting sort of topic of discussion in many professions and areas at the moment, is the foot debate. So I used to be a Birkenstock wearer, and I used to have cushioning in my runners, and I thought that was the way to go. And then actually for me it was getting adjusted this way, and then my body started to change, but it wasn't changing as quick as it should. And we were doing checks in my arch support sandals and realising that was destabilising my system, which is an interesting one because we all think arch support should be fantastic for us. It helps keep our foot in its natural position, which is an arch. But what we've discovered is that the foot is a really well designed bit of equipment that's designed with an arch for a reason, so that it loads that stress that comes off the ground through the arch in a certain way. Now, when we stick arch support in there, we completely change the mechanics of the foot, and we then load all that weight from the ground, or a big portion of it, into that arch. And no longer does the arch create a spring anymore. It just works as one sort of flat bit of foot or bone. And the best analogy I've got for people is getting a nice new car and sticking bricks in the shock absorbers at the back and going for a drive on a rough road and expecting the rest of the car to do really well, because you're effectively taking out the main shock absorber of your body by removing that arch. We take people out of their arch support. We talk to them about it. Usually there's stubborn people like me who stayed in my Birkenstocks for 3 months and realised I was spending way too much money flying to Perth more often than I needed to, and not getting the progression I should. So I binned my Birkenstocks, and I think the most interesting one I had the other day for myself was I enjoy surfing, and I've surfed for a lot of years, and we buy these tail pads for the back of our board, and I went and bought a new tail pad, and I bought one just not even thinking with an arch support, and stuck it on my board and went surfing, and the penny dropped, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, here I am destabilizing my back foot, like when I need the stability the most. And so I went and cut the arch support off all my surfboards, and it was amazing. I felt completely different. My boards went better than they've ever gone before. So just that simple change of like creating stability on that back foot by allowing the arch to work properly changed the whole game. Yeah, so pretty exciting. I think there's one other bit on that, the cushioning. Yeah, so it's a similar idea, cushioning. And Aaron mentioned he's changed his running shoes and his running style from kind of a heel strike, running mechanism, and I'm sure you'll get people on who know a lot more about this than me at some stage. But the basic from where I come from is we want to have awareness of where our feet are on the ground. We're designed to be running and aware of what the ground's doing, and the more cushioning we create, we remove that awareness, and we tend to hit our heels harder on the ground, and then that creates stress instantly to the knee, lower back, all the way up the spine. Whereas if we can move towards more to the forefoot or toes, we use the ankle for a spring, we've got more awareness, we reduce that stress.
And yeah, one of the cool things that I love with going into your practice is that you're in bare feet.
We are.
Conrad's in bare feet. We all wear thongs anyway up here, but it's so good to see that, which backs it up. And going off what you're saying is having that feeling under your feet and the feeling of the ground. They're sensory organs, your feet, and I think a quarter of your body's bones are in your feet.
Yep. Quarter between the feet. Yep. Yeah. So half your bones and your body between your hands and your feet. It's amazing.
It's incredible, and there's these incredible devices that are made to take shock, and they almost do naturally. They're natural shock absorbers, which they're totally. Just so incredible.
I mean, we've changed our game, moving to pavement and concrete and all that. But what we're finding is people, who give a go running more trail and off road. Again, it's like they have to keep constant awareness of where they're putting their feet because it's not smooth, flat ground. So then they're getting less injuries. It's harder work. They might not be able to run as far to start with, or as as fast, but they're less injuries and they're developing much better.
It's so worth
that
it.
Style. Yeah.
I think I saw a video once on YouTube, and they even show with a baby learning how to walk, and you watch them learn how to walk with no shoes on and how well they do, and then they go and put shoes straight on them, and it sends them back a step because they can't feel what's underneath them. And so that's just such a great example right there of how it is, how shoes and heavily cushioned shoes can really muffle not only what your feet are feeling and that feedback to your brain about how to behave on and walk on certain textures, but the extreme cushioning can also have other side effects, instability in the hips and things like that.
Yeah, I think I've seen a similar video, and it's interesting with kids. So you really want to keep them in as thinner, flexible shoe as possible for as long as you can. So if you need to put shoes on them for whatever reason, those little leather moccasins are amazing, like just thin bit of leather for when they're young. That we use that with our kids, and they pretty much wore those until... my kids won't be seen in shoes.
They're great,
often.
yeah. I've
they get from the car to home in the shoes and around the shops, and then they take them off generally. But interesting on that, like we people have given thongs, flip flops, whatever you want to call them, a bad time. A sort of a bad rap. But it's often they're not actually as bad as we think. As long as they're firm and flat, they're reasonably flexible. As long as they don't sink too much and create an arch support, then they're actually not a bad shoe. So we're doing all right up here.
Yeah, and the other thing with generally when you find a more of a barefoot styled shoe is having that width in the toes as well, so it's not cramping your toes and sort of crushing all your toes together. It's room for your big toe to stay straight and all your toes to sort of splay out as well, which it's just got such a huge advantage.
It'll make sense, if you want to balance.
Yeah, give yourself as wide a platform to stand on.
Yeah, toes that are designed to do that, and then we wear shoes that stop them doing that. So, there's lots of models. Like we've got Vivo Barefoot, you've got Merrells, you've got Ultras, I think.
Ultras are the ones that I like to use, yeah.
So I think everybody's getting into it these days, which is great to see. We've got Zero. It's got like some really nice shoes and sandals you can make themselves. We're really lucky. Again, we're in an amazing time where we've got that stuff available.
Right, and I've even had people coming to me because they know the path that I've gone down with that, and they're learning, and I've just done a course with Clay, and I don't want to get rid of all that hard work. Like, what shoes can you advise for me to wear? And we'll catch up and have a coffee, and I'll go through what I wear and the pros and cons, and the benefits, with a lesser cushioning sole, because they're like, I've just done all this work with clay to realign and set my body back into a good state, and I don't want to undo it by then putting myself in these heavily cushioned sort of
So
shoes.
Generally I'm not a runner as such, and that's purely basic because my body wasn't capable of doing it for a lot of years. So I will send people to Aaron. I asked him if he was all right with that, and he's like, yeah, that's all right. I'll send people to Aaron if they need more advice than the basic kind of, here's a website to have a look at for shoes, because he's been through it and used ones with a little bit more cushioning and then brought it down to no cushioning, and has kind of been through that whole process, whereas I am trail running a little bit now because my body's finally got to a stage where I can run without hip and back pain and knee pain, which is wonderful. Yeah, so exciting. Hopefully I'll be here one day running over that range with you too, Aaron.
Absolutely. And I've got people like hitting me up, like already, friends have gone and they've done this work to get themselves right and they're wearing good shoes. And I mean, keeping in mind, I'm absolutely no expert in this issue, and people might disagree, but all I can go off is what I've learnt and my experiences and what is working for me now through going the wrong way, getting injured. And I think at the end of the day, with performance and any sports that you do, the biggest thing you want to avoid is getting injured again. So whatever information you can find via being injured or just tweaking your own techniques, injury is what you want to avoid. And whatever you can help to aid that, you're going to go for, which it seems to have definitely worked for me, for sure.
Yeah, and I think there's, it's that personal kind of one-on-one experience and recommendations that people are really chasing too, because everybody can go online and look at a website or look at a blog or something, but it's really getting the finer details of how people got to where they got that probably helps. It's great to get a bit of a team together like that. I know Aaron's thinking about doing his running coaching course at some stage.
I've just started. I did my level 1 just before the whole COVID thing started. I did my level 1, and
cool.
I've got a couple of online courses sections I still need to complete. That's kind of been put on the back burner with the whole COVID thing. I probably was the perfect time, but I need to finish that and incorporate a lot of that and using your experiences as well to send people in to learn more and to help themselves.
We're pretty lucky in this town, really. We've got some good people here doing a lot of good stuff. So I think between what we're doing and a lot of the personal trainers and rehab Pilates and yoga, and we've got a pretty amazing.
We're very lucky for
health and wellness. Yeah, set up now. It was different 15 years ago when we left here to go and study. It was like there was nothing. There was one physio, no chiropractors. Maybe some yoga, but I don't know even, and it's just
definitely growing.
I don't think the gym had even started up there, and so as a town we've come a long way. Yeah,
and the hardest thing I guess is the one thing with the shoes is you can't just walk into a store and try a pair of shoes on. There's no really, there's not a great deal to choose from as far as footwear in the town. I think the camping store, they do sell some shoes. But if you're looking at a certain type or a certain brand, you can't just go and walk in somewhere and try them on. You've got to almost order them and hope for the best.
Yeah, I usually have a couple of pairs of mine sitting in there for people, and so try that on and then walk around a bit. And it is tricky, hey? Especially sizing, I think, for the barefoot stuff, because people are moving from a shoe they've known which holds their foot in place to a shoe that basically allows their foot to fully spread out. So it's really surprising that some people need like a lot bigger shoe than you'd think to allow for the width, because they really need to spread out.
And because so many people up here with the lifestyle that we live, like a lot of people surf, get around in thongs or bare feet. So many people up here have got wider feet in general anyway because of the lifestyle.
True. Yeah, I never thought of that.
So I think there's a lot of benefit to sharing that knowledge as well for people to, if and when they do have to wear shoes, which isn't very often. There are choices out there that you can.
It's really weird on that, like, because you've spent some time in Coral Bay, and I always found that people who came up from Coral Bay to get adjusted got better really quick, and didn't need as much work as people next to me who already needed a whole lot less work than the people I was adjusting in the city before I moved back up here. And then now I'm thinking maybe it's like pretty much nobody wears shoes in Coral Bay, hey?
Pretty much.
Most people just get around barefoot non-stop. I mean, there's a low stress content as well, because they're all pretty relaxed down there. But I always wondered, I wonder if that was like part of that reason why people got better so quick.
definitely something worth looking into.
Yeah.
Sure. I think even with our kids, the only reason we put shoes on the kids is just because the ground gets so hot in the summer.
It does.
They need, foot protection. But even then, we try and keep it to a minimum. I've got sort of minimum style shoes that I'll put the kids in when they have to go to school and stuff like that. But otherwise, I try and keep. They've got these beautiful natural feet that they're born with, and then over time, you start to see them with the shoes that they wear, squeeze the little toe in, and the big toe starts to curve in a little bit, and it's like, what am I doing to these beautiful feet?
Yeah. They got some good shoes now that have got I think kid sizes and all the barefoot options.
And flexible, I think, is the other one that I've noticed, is that you want a shoe that you can fully curl. Yeah. So not a firm midsole. I know a lot of people are looking at shoes now that have got a really springy, firm midsole, and the idea is that it gives you more bounce because it's it's like a coil, like a spring that because the sole's so firm, you can get bigger greater jumping heights or whatever. But really, your shoe wants to be able to bend and mold with your foot, so you want to be able to.
Sounds like a good marketing gimmick.
Yeah, which I think a lot of it is.
Nike's probably thinking, what can we think up next?
Yeah.
Nike's even gone like Nike Frees as well. They're good. They don't really have the width, but they've gone a flexible sole. But I
think when the bigger companies start going down that line, that there could be something in it.
Totally.
Or at least there's a market for it anyway, so people are going that way.
Yeah, without a doubt. Those
awesome.
The old track and field shoes were like, it's pretty much it. They were just a bit of leather, really, weren't they?
Spikes.
There's not much to them. Yeah, they had it right back then.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've had a really great chat, and I think we're at a pretty good place. So probably going to round things off just with plans for what you've got for the future. I guess you're going to try and service more towns a little bit, or
it's time is the essence at the moment. But we probably start Tom Price next year because we're already there over in Parabadoo, and we are getting a lot of people in Parabadoo to a good place, so that we don't need to see them so regularly anymore. So Tom Price, and then may do Onslow as well because it's on the flight route to Panawanica, but we just probably need to factor in time frames for that. It's been a busy year in Exmouth with the whole of WA wanting to come on holidays to visit us.
So pretty much.
It's been a good year for business here, but just juggling it all really. But the plan is eventually to have the local areas serviced, that we're within flight distance, because we've got the plane now, and we'll take out massage as well, because there's a real demand for they're really crying out for remedial massage therapy out in those towns as well. And then just try and balance that with what we've got going on here, and hopefully, if my wife's got her way, not do too much more expansion.
Because you do have a centre in Margaret River as well.
We bought a centre down there, the Margaret River Wellness Centre. We bought that about 4 years ago now. It was when my little boy was 3 months old, and
that would have been a big
I ran into a guy who wanted to sell it at a seminar, and I had this great idea of having a bit of flexibility up and down between north and south, which hasn't really eventuated yet, but it may at some stage. But we've got a really good team down there, amazing chiropractor and massage and naturopathy, and just kind of manage that from a distance really, which is all going reasonably well. It's a bit of a tax on the time, so you got to keep it all a bit balanced if I can. I think if I went going buying anything more, my wife would be asking some serious questions or servicing too much more.
It's that fine art of balancing everything and finding that balance, which is seems to be the challenge.
And in your own business, I think when you're on your own business in the healthcare profession, you need a team, like I do anyway. I need a team of people to keep me inspired. So I think that's part of it. Like I think if you're working on your own, I think in alternative healthcare or holistic healthcare, whatever you want to call it, it's you need other people working with you to keep that that drive going, because we don't have a hospital we walk into or a GP practice full of GPs. We've got to create that really, and so that's probably the drive behind it all, is to get that team happening, and we've done an amazing job. We've got such good people together.
Absolutely, it's so good. You guys got a great practice in there. It's always great from coming in the front door and seeing the girls on the front counter, and then seeing you guys. It's awesome, and I think the when I come in and visit, we've got to squeeze this quick conversation into, you know,
While
you're adjusting me, we sort of run a bit late, and I'm looking out and you've got other customers there, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've got to shut up and get out the door. But
good to have a chance to finally go through it all thoroughly.
Yeah, definitely. And I need to come in and see you again soon. It's been a little while since I've been in. But with everything I've been at the moment, I think my running's probably backed off a little bit more than what I would have liked. But, you know, family circumstances it's been nice to sort of take the foot off the pedal a little bit.
You kind of got that goal, didn't you? You got that run over the range. And
I
then
did, yeah.
Probably having a little bit of a chill until you set the new one.
Definitely, yeah. And it has been really nice to just have some family time and take the pressure off myself to think that I need to perform and set a sight. But it's been nice to stop and take a breath as well and have a bit of a chill time.
I think we all need that. I'm about
family.
to take a couple of weeks off for the first time this year, which is pretty exciting actually, because I've got an associate up here now, so I can actually take time off, as my wife just reminded me a month ago.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Finding that balance again.
It's time to, so we're about to clock off and go camping for 2 weeks and turn the phones off and just, that'll be,
that's so good.
Looking forward to that.
Hopefully you get what you need and come back revitalised, because, what you do for the town and, you know, for me especially, it's just such a great service that you provide, and the way you go about your practice and everything, it really does show in the results, and I'm definitely proof that it does work. So yeah, if there's people out there that are thinking that, you know, no, they don't have serious back problems or an acute back injury, but there's just something they can't quite put their finger on, there's definitely something worth thinking about, is to come in and find in your city where you can go. You can probably Google ABC practices in whichever city that you're in.
Yeah, I think it's abcaustralasia.org.com.
.au
on
.au,
the end?
yeah, .au I've got here, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it won't be .com, so abcaustralasia.org.au. And they're a non-for-profit organisation that we're all members of, that basically teach the technique, provide postural supports. They make mattresses now because they're fed up with people going into a shop and coming out with too soft a mattress, even though they specifically sent their patient in to ask for the firmest one in there. They make mattresses, just other postural support stuff like pillows and seat wedges to modify seats so they're a bit better for you. And they've got a provider map on there so you can have a look and see who's in the area, who's registered and a member, and who provides the service. I mean, you look, we're getting there. There's still a lot of towns with no practitioner in it who practices this technique. But we're working on them. It's a retraining that not everybody's up for, but we're getting steadily more and more people getting involved and doing a job.
I'm always happy to be that advocate for for what can be done and the potential. Obviously, as you learn and you go down your wellness path, you're always willing to learn more, and that change that mindset would be really good. Yeah,
so it's a good point to call. But as you know, all chiropractors do a wonderful job. At what they do, I think everybody's got into it probably for a similar reason to me, to help people, and generally because their own health was struggling. So it's always worth exploring that option if you haven't yet. So many wonderful, inspiring chiropractors who I meet and talk to every day. And then I think just probably on that, just alternative healthcare, because a lot of people probably, and it's not my paradigm anymore, but are still in that mainstream system and thinking that that's the way to go, to going and exploring the mainstream way of looking after their health. And now, I mean, the stuff that's coming out is amazing. We've got obviously chiropractic's been around for 100 years, but there's stuff there that acupuncture and Chinese medicine now is getting more and more in Australia. We've got so many good massage therapists. We've got there's a myotherapist. There's just a whole range of different people involved in. We've got life coaches. We've got all these people who are getting involved in that healthcare system and offering such good service that it's definitely worth exploring that as well if you're just not thinking along those lines yet.
Being open to it. And I think I shared a post, it might have been on my personal Instagram the other day. It's one I've probably shared a few times, and it's through I think it's through the Foot Collective. They do great things with with the barefoot movement and hip mobility and all that stuff. And it was just a cartoon of a queue, and there was two windows, and one window had pills and surgery, and there was people out the door queuing up, and then there was another window with someone in there and it had lifestyle change, and there was just no one there, and the person just sitting there leaning on their elbows. And it's just changing that perception that, you know, there are ways of improving your health and your well-being if you're just open to that thought.
Yeah, and I would say that queue is probably rapidly changing, because I think we're, like, you know, as a whole in our business, like we said, we've, you know, there's now 2 different chiropractic practices in town, you know, a range of different places we can get all those services, and we're all busy. So yeah, I think that perception is, which is so exciting to be in this time, is it's no longer the abnormal thing to do. It's people are really shifting, and the Instagram and Facebook are helping with that, because people can now share we can't share testimonials, which is a bit tricky, but they can share the information and the kind of advice and just the awareness.
Absolutely, and that's what it's about, I think. And on that, if anyone's listening, it's definitely struck a chord with them, and they want to look further into it. Clay's already mentioned the ABC australasia.org.au. There's also Exmouth Wellness Centre. You check out Clay's website. It's at exmouthwellnesscentre.com.au.
Yep. We've got exercises and a few blogs and stuff. Yeah, it's a bit of info in there.
It's great. I checked out there. That's really good. I'm not on Facebook, but and even your Facebook page, there's some good stuff on there.
Yeah, we're on that sporadically, I think.
Yeah.
We're all a bit sporadic with our Facebook, but there's some great posts on there if people want to go back and have a look. Yeah.
And just in all of that, there's blogs, there's great recipes if you're into, you know, good cooking, information on sleep and how to achieve better sleep, which is just really important, meditation, and also stuff like your stomach microbiome and stuff going on in your gut health and stuff like that, as well as improving your general overall well-being as well, which is just where you guys approach everything with a 360 sort of degree look at things. So it's really cool. Definitely go and check that out. I think there'll be some really good stuff on there. Or there is
Yeah, for sure. And we'll try and get more up as well. It's been on the agenda.
Many things.
We're just chipping away. We're managing some good stuff. So we've got a great naturopath at the moment. She's putting out some good content as well. So
and as stuff comes in, and I'm always happy to share stuff on my Instagram page, at the In Expeditions Podcast Instagram page. Check it out. I'll put some photos up of Clay and maybe the plane and a few cool things that he's doing and putting out there, and I'll share that once this episode comes out, so you can easily check that out there. Also, if you want to look more into the scientific side of it with the SD protocol and the work that Dr. Wayne Todd is doing, you can find that at sdprotocol.com. And just look in there at some of the symptoms, I suppose, you get with the central nervous system and the sympathetic side of things when you're in the fight and flight mode. There's such an array of I guess symptoms on there that you might find that you're suffering with, and I think he looks at more where they're treating certain symptoms collectively more than individually, because they can be linked through that stage.
Yeah, it's rare for them to come up individually, I suppose, and people actually really think about it. And when I look at it, most people with anxiety have fatigue, you know, and sleep disorders. It's such a interesting conglomerate of symptoms that is explained so nicely through that SD protocol, the sympathetic dominance.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure to check it out. There's just so much information on there that if you're thinking along those lines, you can find it out through the pages mentioned. But I'm just going to round up and just put out a huge thanks to Clay for coming in and speaking with me on the work that you always do for me, and you've helped me so much along the way. Like I said, I don't suffer any of that knee pain anymore, and it's enabled me to take my fitness and performance to the next level. And you know, I just finding out more and more what I can do to improve not just my fitness, but just my general health and well-being and state of mind. It's so beneficial, what I've learned and what I continue to find and learn and get through your guys' treatment. So thank you so much for coming on and all of the above. It's just so appreciated.
You're welcome, Aaron. So great to be able to be of service and help you get there.
Yeah, that's so great. Last of all, I just want to say just a huge thanks to everyone that tuned in to have a listen. I really hope you got something out of the episode, and just look into stuff. You just never know what can be out there if you're willing to sort of open that door and let the information come in. It can be really beneficial, and you never know what could be on the other side. So thanks very much again, everyone, for tuning in. And if it's your first time tuning into the podcast, I want to say just thanks very much for tuning in. Really great to have you guys on board, and I hope to speak to you guys again next time with our next guest, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thanks very much.